As a policy digest, we have an interest in how society shapes up, and like we said, political parties, and more specifically in this case, the oldest political party and how it is shaping up is of interest to us.
When Jimmy got himself declared him president, he did something else. They basically stormed the party headquarters and chased over Larotunu. So they took charge of Uganda House. So basically it was a military-style kind of coup. Very sad for my party.
Did they just walk in?
Yeah, they mobilized and basically broke into the place and asked Larotunu to leave. And it was a very terrible sight. These things are doing the rounds in social media. I will share with you one of the clips where you see Larotunu is basically being asked. I think, ironically, one of the commanders of that operation is one Dennis Enap.
This is the Policy Digest, a Center for Policy Analysis podcast that explores how African societies are governed and how people and their leaders are shaping the future of their communities. Through candid conversations and insightful analysis, we aim to provide a deeper understanding of the political, economic, and social landscape of Africa. So sit back, relax, and get ready to explore the diverse and dynamic world of African governance.
A democracy is not just seen on the health of its traditional institutions. It's also seen on how those that want to create the health of institutions, who are the political class, carry themselves day by day. And one of the ways through which that happens is they organize in a political party. And in nation-state Uganda, one of the oldest political parties, the Uganda People's Congress, has had quite a time. As you could have noticed in the presidential nominations, both candidates who wanted to stand for presidency, that is the son of Dr. Obote, Akena, and Joseph Ochieno, were denied an opportunity to stand for presidency. Now, that had quite a lot of effect on the party itself, but also on the perception of the political party, which is one of the oldest. And in this specific conversation, we just want to, on the record, get into the storyline on how we get here. And in order to do that, we are joined by Joseph Ochieno, who is a UPC presidential candidate, one of whom were denied their right to stand for presidency for the upcoming 2026 election. You're most welcome, Mr. Ochieno.
Thank you for having me. I thought I would just put it on the record that I was not necessarily directly denied by the Electoral Commission, but denied by the process. The league of Jimmy, of the two people that the Electoral Commission clearly stated did not qualify, were actually Jim Akena and Dennis Enap. These are two of the three people who picked nomination forms. I picked nomination forms amongst the three, but I did not return the nomination forms, and I did not intend to return nomination forms unless, as you rightly suggest, I was cleared as president of the party. I picked nomination forms the week before I expected a declaration from court, a declaration that has been pending since 2020, and from that perspective, it's both obnoxious, unacceptable, and a terrible indictment on the political system that is operating with its legal element called the judiciary, because the judiciary has been incapable, unable to, or possibly willing, for whatever reason, to issue a declaration on a very simple, straightforward matter of a judicial review, an application that I attended on the 17th of March, 2021, challenging the election results of one that followed a Court of Appeal order. And so it was a legal process that I thought anybody and everybody should have been very interested in. Challenging the results that would otherwise declare myself a president on the basis of the results, which is very, very clear, very straightforward. And with the evidence that I presented to them, I don't think it's something that should take somebody 6 hours to go through and basically make a determination. But that has now taken 4.5 years. So it's that. But yes, of course, you're right that in Jimmy's case, the Electoral Commission declined his advice, basically, that he did not qualify as a candidate because he didn't. And Jimmy did not qualify because, he is not president of the party. It's basically that. Dennis Enap did not qualify, one, because he participated in Jimmy's illegality, and number two...
The Delegates conference, Anisha was on Zoom.
He didn't participate in that, but I think a nomination process, an early nomination process, would have been an illegality because Jimmy...
was not a president.
He was not a president, so he was not legally qualified within the boundaries of our constitution to call for that delegates conference or to go through that process following an early ruling of 2020. I know it's a bit confusing and quite boring to your viewers for a long period of time, but it's an important
I totally agree with you. Maybe
clarification to make.
If we just forward into that conversation. So what was the problem that encouraged you to go to court at that time?
When?
You said 2020, 2021?
Yes.
Against the election. What was the problem with the election?
This entire mess starts from 2015, an election to replace Olara Tunu, organized by Olara Tunu, who's our last elected president of the party way back in 2010. So since 2010, we've not had a president constitutionally elected by the party and legally recognized by the constitution except Olara Tunu. So when Olara Tunu called for, organized the process, we had district conferences in the current UPC constitution. You have to win 1/3 of the districts, at least get nominated by at least 1/3 of the districts across the country, which process Jimmy got the majority, in fact. But before Olara Tunu could now call the delegates conference, which should be the organ to either approve if you're one candidate who gets through that, or organize elections in case there are more than two candidates or more than one candidate who got it, or reject the nomination, or call for nomination on the floor, because the supreme organ is the delegates conference. Now, a delegates conference can only be called by the president of the party through a formal process of the constitution. Details would be boring to you. So Olara Tunu was never allowed to call that process. Jimmy and his team argue that Olara had delayed and he had intentions of playing around with it, but that's neither here nor there. Now, even if that were the case, the fact is Jimmy called a consultative meeting, as he called it, of...
That's 2020. 2020.
No, 2015 actually.
2015, yeah.
Yes, of members or delegates who were, I think again, relatively majority delegates, but being majority does not mean you break the law and you break the constitution. Yeah. So they called he called a consultative conference, as he called it. They constituted themselves turned themselves to a delegates conference and declared Jimmy a president-elect. This matter, this declaration was challenged by one Professor Kakonge, and the court agreed with Professor Kakonge
that was in
2015, that Jimmy indeed went through an illegal process as not leader. Jimmy sought an interim injunction, sort of mini granted to him pending an appeal. The appeal took 5 years. 2020, July 29th, Court of Appeal justices led by Justice Arin Mlegonje asked for written submission from the Jimmy side and also the Olara side, which I'll explain now. And that side asked for it on a Wednesday, sitting on a Wednesday. But Jimmy had now organized another delegates conference now himself. A delegates conference now in 2020, August the 1st. As now a president.
Yeah.
When Jimmy got himself declared in president, he did something else. They basically stormed the party headquarters and chased over Lara Tunu. So they took charge of Uganda House. So basically it was a military style kind of coup. Very sad for my party.
Did they just walk in?
Yeah, they mobilized and basically broke into the place and asked Lara Tunu to leave. And it was a very terrible sight. These things are doing the rounds in social media. I will share with you one of the clips where you see Lara Tunu is basically being asked. I think, ironically, one of the commanders of that operation is one Dennis Enap.
The one who wanted.
Yes. Yeah. And I find it very distasteful. And I say this as a leader of Uganda People's Congress. I say this hopefully as the president formally of Uganda People's Congress for today and tomorrow. But I also say this as a former chairman of the External Bureau of Uganda People's Congress. And I say this as somebody who returned home with Jimmy Akena 20 years ago on the directives of the late President Dr. Milton Obote. And I say this as Milton Obote's close aide. But I also say this as somebody who declared himself Milton Obote's permanent spokesperson. But I also say this as a committed member of the party who has been a member of UPC for 45 years, since 1980 when I joined this party. And I say it as somebody who finds this kind of behavior not only obnoxious, but reminds me of the manner in which NRA took power, reminds me of militarism and dictatorship. And I reject completely anything associated with this kind of thing, particularly the fact that I say this as somebody who wants to lead this party and hand it over to a predominantly younger population of this country, both as members of UPC and citizenry. And so I never expected I would see such kind of behavior within UPC. So that happens. Jimmy takes over Uganda House, controls Uganda House for 5 years. Court of Appeal delayed, but gets an interim hearing on a Wednesday, and says that Jimmy's then planned delegates conference for the 1st of August 2020 should not proceed. So there's an order
that
make a written submission. Yes, make a written submission by next Friday. I mean, that's Jimmy. The Kakonge side, which is now the Lara side, make a written submission by Friday. They're given 2 days. And delegates conference set for Saturday should not proceed. That's an order which is open. Jimmy proceeds with his delegates conference against the provision of the law, the Constitution, rather of the Court of Appeal. 4 weeks later, 7th of September, a definitive ruling by Justice Muleagonja and her team that dismisses Jimmy's application and orders for fresh elections.
Of the party.
Yes. Yeah. Now, because Jimmy's application challenging the earlier court that his leader was dismissed means he clearly ceased to be anything supposed to present and claim to be leader of the party as of September 7th, 2020. The leadership of the party then reverts formally, as confirmed, to either Lara Tunu or whoever would have appointed. Lara Tunu, who had sought to serve only one term, had handed over the leadership to his vice president. That is constitutional, Joseph Bosa. Joseph Bosa, in 2018 late, as he was going for medical treatment abroad, it's a mess in UPC, hands over interim leadership of the party to Peter Walobiri. Joseph Bosa dies abroad while he's seeking medical treatment. It therefore follows that Walobiri, the interim leader, becomes court
president.
In 2019, January. 2020, when Court of Appeal makes a declaration, it basically means that Walobiri is confirmed as the interim right leader for the party to call for to organize fresh elections. Walobiri organizes that fresh elections.
Okay.
Now Joseph Ochieno comes in as candidate. And I participated in those elections with Walobiri, with one Dr. Dixon Opul and one Dr. Dan Okello. that's the election that I win. Figures
Jimmy Akena didn't.
You're right, and that's important. Jimmy Akena does not participate. He didn't participate in those elections. He said he was not going to participate in those elections. Now, this election that I win, the results are fudged. I go to court to seek a judicial review. And that is a matter that has not been determined till today. Now, my judicial review, primary prayer one is to ask for a declaration that I'm president, which I still hope will be declared on the basis of the evidence, affidavits, and witness that are presented. And number two, I ask for a permanent injunction against Jim Akena, who had been parading himself as president all this time. Now, those two declarations have been dodged by the judiciary for whatever reason.
Yeah, but
the matter has now gone through four judges, and this is where we are.
Part of why I want to ask, for if you had 4.5 years, that's a lot of time. That's quite a lot of time. And you said it passed through 4 judges.
Yes.
In your own analysis, what's wrong? Why? What's going on?
I don't know. So I should be crying tears. I should be shedding tears. And I should be asking for hundreds and thousands of your viewers to join me in sympathy, to possibly go and bang the tables in the judiciary, in the High Court. Maybe bang the tables of the principal judge. Maybe bang the tables of the Attorney General. Maybe bang the tables of the Chief Justice. Maybe bang the tables of my friend Norbert Mao as Minister for Justice. But maybe bang the tables of Mr. Museveni and ask him whether he thinks that if such a thing ever happened to him, he would not have gone to the bush 10 times. And ask him genuinely, seriously, what anybody sensible would expect Joseph Ochieno to do, either to go to the bushes in Bositema, in Mabira, or go for urban guerrilla, the way the Palestinians and Israelis do. And if I ever did that, anybody would ask that I am not doing the last resort thing. But quite clearly, it must be the case that somebody does not want an organized UPC, but it must be the case that somebody is comfortable that at these elections, UPC doesn't have a presidential candidate, and certainly that UPC's presidential candidate is not Joseph Ochieno, who would almost certainly not only reorganize Uganda People's Congress, remainstream it, heal it, restructure it, open it for young people in this country, remainstream the young people that have recruited massively in the last 5 years, but reorganize the conversation and make sure that we mainstream political conversation so that in this election, it's an election of issues and issues on which UPC puts its program on the table versus NRA, versus NUP, and possibly, as others say, we put our track record in terms of our historical achievements as a governing political party, but also our vision for the future that would focus on the traditional issues of education, health, infrastructure, and agriculture, and the criminality around corruption, which is the second, if you like, middle name of NRA, side by side with the very important critical things that young people in this country and around the world ought to be focusing on, the question of the environment. And that if 40 years of NRA, Mabira Forest is sinking, hundreds of our people are dying, road accidents per day. The other day I came from West Nile, and the rail network that we built within 6 years is crashed and does not exist. And the airlines that we bought for this country have been sold to individuals, and we don't have public service buses. And that the banks that we bought and built for our citizens are now privileges of the few, and the proceeds of banking, except for a few, and allow me to deliberately mention an indigenous bank like Centenary, God forbid that at least they are there as an indigenous bank, but where some of these other foreign banks that are eating up most of our monies and siphoning them abroad. And that you talk about youth, that youth should be talking about unemployment, that young people ought to ask Mr. Museveni whether it's possible, Joseph, for an average young Ugandan graduate today to apply for a job in president's office and get it, like Mr. Museveni got a job in 1970 in president's office when nobody knew him. And I repeat, nobody knew Mr. Museveni. And that the other day, when we were celebrating or marking, is it celebration? I retract that. It was not a celebration of the NRA Constitution, but at the NRA Constitution's 30th anniversary, I was planting a tree at Constitutional Square on behalf of political parties. And I meet a young, fantastic lady from the East, recently married, extremely beautiful, extremely clever. But I ask her what she's doing, but she's in the streets looking for jobs. And I ask her if she applied for civil service jobs that were advertised recently. And her answer is, it's a waste of time because she doesn't know anybody. Meaning that even to make an application, you need to know somebody. Of course, I know people who applied. I know a couple of young people who made those applications. And I know a couple who made it through to the first mini test. But of course, that's where they stopped. Because in part, even to go beyond that, you need to know somebody. That is the mess in which we have under NRA. And that is the disadvantage that the majority of the young people in this country have been subjected to, thanks to the fact that UPC is not on the ballot box.
And I think that's good, the counterfactual of what would have been. Are you hungry?
I was...
when they denied you...
I used to be angry before.
Yeah.
I actually used to be terribly angry, particularly in the early 90s. But thanks to Milton Obote, and thanks to most of the UPC leaders, we were sufficiently schooled to redraw and reorganize our emotions and to begin to think about Uganda without violence, and to think about an alternative Uganda beyond Mr. Museveni, and an alternative Uganda beyond NRA, and to think beyond ourselves, including our own emotions, and to wrap up the issues that our founding parents did build. And in fact, part of that must be a clarification to you that actually UPC is not one of, but UPC is the oldest political party, founded as Uganda National Congress in 1952. And that at our foundation, the focus of our founding parents, including the great Ignatius Musazi, was that we claim this nation state on behalf of indigenous Ugandan Africans away from the British white privileged class and top Asian class. But that we reclaim it for our indigenous people, but we also claim it for Ugandan citizens, whether they're Asian or European, but people who were rightful residents of this country, so that we're able to determine our destiny, determine the destiny of our children, and build this country as one Uganda, then with one national parliament, one national government for all the children of this country for the future. And that is something which it no longer is. Now it's a privilege of a few families, a few individuals. And in fact, you can see even in politics, including political parties, I think there's even an injection of that, where some individuals in UPC now think politics and power is a privilege and a confinement and entitlement of a few individuals and a few families. That was not it. But the more I learned, the more I grew, the more I campaigned, the less angry I became, and the more I've learned to churn what would other be frustrations on anger. And some of the young people who have been with me would know that my focus is to encourage them that every time you see Museveni convoy with 70 vehicles rushing and breaking basic traffic rules and wanting to whip and sweep and slap you off the streets, you should be much more resolved to organize and mobilize to claim the space so that you're able to return to a presidential convoy of the like of Milton Obote, which was hardly 5 vehicles in the streets of Kampala, but respecting you.
Just 5?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ochieno. And I think we've, at this point in the conversation, know what happens from 2015 to now. I just want in the second segment for us to look at where can the hope for this oldest political party in Uganda come from. It looks like the feet of the state is on Justice Jugular. What does the future look like in terms of reorganizing? That's what we should look at. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Parliament Performance Tracker platform, a portal designed to empower Ugandan citizens with valuable insights into their parliament's performance and financial landscape. Some of the key highlights of this platform include the Parliament Legislators Report Card. Here, you find comprehensive information on the members of the Ugandan Parliament, from contact details and their biographies to their legislative performance, including bills sponsored, bill participation, term count, and the number of parliamentary committees they sit on. This section provides a transparent view on each legislator's contributions and activities. The Finance Tracker. This consists of two powerful tools, the Budget Tracker and the Debt Tracker. The Budget Tracker displays the current budget allocations of Uganda, allowing you to track how public resources are distributed across various sectors. But that's not all. There is also the Budget Simulator tool, enabling you to actively participate in the budgeting process by simulating your preferred resource allocations. While the Debt Tracker provides insights into Uganda's national debt standing, you discover key metrics such as the debt per citizen, GDP per capita, and per capita income, along with the sources of these loans. Stay informed about Uganda's financial health and the implications for future generations. Insights. This is a platform where you can gain valuable knowledge about parliament-related topics. Simply enter your queries and our system will fetch relevant articles and also provide AI-generated summaries, offering you a deeper understanding of the issues that matter to you. With its comprehensive tools, staying informed about Uganda's parliament and financial landscape has never been easier. Whether you're curious about your representative's performance, want to understand the budget allocations, or seek insights on parliament-related topics, this platform has you covered. Empower yourself with data and take an active role in shaping Uganda's future. Parliament Watch. Your eye on Parliament.
So, Ms. Ochieno, you say there was an election in 2020, 2021. Why is it that the Honorable Jimmy Akena didn't show up to stand for the election? Do they fear the democratic outcome? What's the problem here?
I think that's part of the contradiction, and I think that's why it's an important question to ask Jimmy, that all of a sudden 2026 elections is the one he says he wants to use to set the record straight. And Jim and I have been home here since 2005. I can confidently say that since 1980 general elections, in my own simple way, I've been seeking to set the record straight. Those of you who know me, that at every opportune moment from 1981, as Museveni went to the bushes, I was setting the record straight. I was saying that he was a political reject from Nyabushozi, that he lost elections. In 1981, I was saying that. I don't know how you can just decide that I'll set the record straight in 50 years' time. So in 1982, when Museveni was in the bush, we were students in Kampala, and we would say that Museveni was a reject, and UPC had convincingly won the 1980 general elections. In 1984, we were telling people that UPC government was the legitimate government, and DP was the legitimate opposition, and DP lost elections, and it was NRA terror that went to the bushes of Luero that were throwing bombs and bullets in Kampala, and they were doing so wrongly. In 1985, we were saying that, look, the coup of 1985 was a deal between Museveni, DP, my Catholic Church establishment, and a few people, as what we call them, capricious men in UPC, who did a deal and to overthrow the People's Democratically elected government. And that went on to between 1985 and 1986. The Ochieno thing of 1986, 85, 86, we set the record straight. We always talked and said so, that it was a shambolic 6 months of Museveni and his friends. They're fighting for who would take over Kampala. So it was no reflection on UPC. It was a reflection of DP, the Okellos, and Museveni's. and one band of bandits overthrew the other. So the Musevenis overpowered their friends and took over formally in 1986. That is the record that we've been setting straight since then. You don't need 2026 to say that. And that from 1986 to date, the atrocities committed in the streets of Kampala, 1987, my own torture and exile by NRA as a student in Makerere University, the targeting of northerners and easterners, Nanbantu in Kampala, Wuno, Oyo Mucholi. These are facts we've been telling people in the streets of Kampala. It happened. The tying of people, Kandoya, the attempts to making my father in 1989 skin a chicken using his mouth in Nagongera of Tororo. Those are facts. You don't wait for 2026 to say that. The Mukura massacres of 1989 that NRA ought to apologize for, and something that we need to be able to highlight as part of today's election. That's Uganda's NRA legacy. You don't have to wait for 2026. The atrocities, the dumping of our people in concentration camps in northern Uganda was not coin. Coin was part of the creation of it. Museveni and these NRA guys and the Kagames had done that for years. So you don't need 2026 to do that. You could go on and on. As I said, the breaking of our financial institutions, the selling of our banks, the selling of our houses for themselves, the breaking of our public services. You don't need to. The junk helicopter thing. You don't. The Govy funds. You don't need to wait for 2026. To say that. The ban of political parties for 20
I'm
years.
quite curious.
You just don't need to wait for 2026.
I'm quite curious. What's his political agenda? Why? He said he breaks into Uganda House, gets the Honorable Rara Tuno out, does not respect the Honorable Modiangonja, the judge at the time who rules in the matter. What's his political agenda? It seems very unclear. What's his political agenda? Is it personal? Is it institutional? At some point recently, the Honorable Norbert Mao seemed to suggest that the political parties that have entered some form of partnership agreement with the ruling party, that's the NRM. What's the political agenda? It's
the clique and
I'm not clique of five now.
The clique can work together and then perfect a way of helping one another. Nobody's a fine guy, but whatever happens, if it is a toxicity that continues to entrench, monolithic polity and the politics of entitlement and dictatorship and breaking of political pluralism, will be very unfortunate, because by implication you're killing political competition, the politics of ideas and values and issues, and creating a continuation of death of constitutionalism. I generally don't know what drives Jim Akena. Jim is a fantastically decent guy. He's a quiet guy.
You hear him speak.
He's my brother.
He's a great guy.
And I don't know what entered him. I'm told NRA sometimes can inject people, whether it's money or kisses or sweet love. I don't know what it is.
You don't know.
I don't know.
Could be chocolate.
But
could be, I don't know.
When we defeated NRA in the courts in November 17th, 2004, in the Constitutional Court, meaning UPC and DP together, campaigning to challenge Article 269 of the 1995 NRA Constitution. On December 18th, 1 month later exactly, Milton Obote wrote to me. I was obviously heading the external bureau of the party in UK and the senior local government officer. And he wrote to me and asked me to head a delegation home, which delegation eventually ended up here together, ironically, with Jim Akena. So I thought we came home to start a process of rejoining our colleagues, James Ranyarara and others.
What did Dr. Obote have in mind in terms of
I don't know what he quietly told his son. All I know is that he did not want his son to come. because I know that he told me himself on my arrival in Lusaka that Jimmy also wants to come, but I don't want him to. I don't know what the reason, but I'm simply trying to say. So I don't know in that discussion what they did.
Yeah, you said
all I know is my directive as a president, from the president, to come and lead a delegation of party members and colleagues, including Jim. I still believe that the idea was that we come home and reinforce our colleagues in rebuilding our party organization, our party structure.
What did he have in mind in terms of reconstructing UPC?
Very important.
What did he have in mind? He must have had. He used to be a detailed. He was a detailed person. You could read through the Common Man's Party. There must have been like an architectural blueprint.
Of course, yes.
Please focus on this, focus on this, focus on this. What did he...
It was very meticulous, and I think I hope you get able to get a document of that. I think I'll get it and give it to you. Returning UPC to constitutionalism after 20 years of NRS dictatorship and ban on parties. So my job was, together with everyone else, supporting the local structures of the National Organizing Committee, the Presidential Policy Commission, and all other structures of the party to begin to recruit, to begin to rebuild our party structures that had been in abeyance, recreate them, remobilize, carry out elections from branches to constituents to districts, and up to take us to the Delegates Conference, where we would have a new president elected. The committees created, various committees, one of which was Manifesto and Constitution Committee, and I was appointed. He appointed me into that committee, and that was basically my focus as coming, and was likely to have been also the secretary of the Manifesto and Constitution Committee of the party. Of course, Jimmy wasn't there, but not that it means anything. But I'm telling you that we came home to work, to rebuild the party, re-energize it, to regroup, and make sure that we got a new president by end of that year. And that Milton Obote hoped that he would hand over the presidency to a new president, leadership to a new president. Of course, unfortunately, he died in October, shortly before our Delegates Conference. So that was our mission. But our mission was to return our party to constitutionalism. If that was one of the missions that was at the heart of the president and the heart of my return to the country, I do not accept the idea that the constitution of UPC should be broken by anybody, and I do not believe that anybody should break the constitution of the country, particularly the provisions of the constitution which are in conformity with the values of Uganda Post Congress and the values of all the citizens of this country. So when Jimmy defied the Court of Appeal,
the very constitution that his father wanted to,
broke the party constitution, was contemptuous of court, Justice Mleagonja's ruling, and more recently contemptuous when he went ahead and organized his now new Delegates Conference of 2025.
Yeah, I saw it on Zoom. I saw it on... It was quite a scenario.
The Zoom meeting.
I saw some screen. I with an emoji. I think he raised up a hand like... Yeah, I was like, what's going on? UPC cannot afford a Delegates Conference.
No, fair enough. I mean, if it was legally done and constitutionally done, it would be okay. He had called that meeting when one of his other colleagues, Dennis Anap, had challenged the process in court, because Dennis's argument was that Jimmy had served 2 terms on their lineage of the party.
So he felt like in their illegitimate mafia, UPC, it was time for
Jimmy to go. And if it's
from
on the basis,
215 to 20.
That's correct. So if it's on the basis of that, he was right. And somehow he took this to a particular judge, and Justice Namanya ruled that indeed, if you're seeking a 3rd term on the basis of your authority, you're breaching the party constitution. So the judge barred him from continuing to present himself as a candidate, and barred the party from legitimately recognizing him. And so after that, he said he's not going to appeal, but instead he's going to call a Delegates Conference to hand this matter to members who are very important part of this process.
I saw Wait, I think it was a room like in some corner. Was it the Uganda House?
I know.
I saw it on news. They were in some corner, like a table of like 5 people.
I don't know.
And then like a screen.
I know you want to say that some of these things were supposed to have taken place in Kamdini at
No,
Betamongi's,
not exactly.
but eventually it happened somewhere else. But anyway,
Where was that?
I don't know, somewhere in Lear, I'm told. But anyway, whatever the case, the important point is that when they organized that, I sought an injunction.
Yeah, you did.
Because it meant that if they proceeded with it, their standard impunity, it would have a legal implication on my pending matter of my judicial review. We successfully obtained that injunction, restraining him and his group from continuing. They typically defied that and went ahead with their meeting and passed resolutions, and now claim that they did not know. But of course, it's true that they were served. It's true that I also personally served in terms of notice online. And then, of course, my legal team managed to access that Zoom space and issued the notice, the order that that was an illegitimate meeting. They went ahead with it, passed resolutions. So whatever happened in that meeting, legally and constitutionally, is null and void.
I totally agree with you. In whose interest is like a weak UPC, and I just read a tweet here which was saying Mr. Jimmy Akena was blaming the president for blocking their presidential outreach. Who benefits from this? Is this like a system which was meant to fail, so they knew they would come to this point anyway, so they proceeded hoping that the system will give them way?
Jimmy and team have been enjoying a special relationship with the state.
Yes.
Since Mr. Museveni was lucky enough to go and sit on Milton Obote's chair at Minakulu over the marriage, I think in 2013 or 2014 or thereabout. Something that I found difficult. But that was a matter for them. But from 2015, Jimmy and Betty and group have been enjoying a special privilege of the state. I think this time round, Jimmy is very annoyed that the state that has been protecting them may be protecting other people, certainly that they know, those other people amongst their friends, Dennis Enap said that he used to go and collect the money. You guys.
The money guy.
I'm broke. My car is a half empty fuel, man. I wish I could get some of this money to fuel my car, So anyway, these guys have been enjoying their money. So you talk about whose interest it is for the last 20 years. The only thing for which Mr. Museveni could be blamed is for not interfering this time round.
He already
and
says
the only reason for the Electoral Commission to be blamed is for doing the right thing. On this occasion, we had put the Electoral Commission on notice, and we had also had a meeting.
That if they proceed,
yes,
there will be consequences.
They'll be part of the official mess, and we would challenge them. And I'm very serious about this. This is not something that we're going to let go. UPC must be reclaimed for its members. UPC must be reclaimed for the citizens. Joseph, I've been around the country recently, including Tungamu and many parts of this country, and you meet people who lost family members because of this party, who lost family members because of this country. We can't just let go of that for a group of individuals who are so interested in pocket change or trying to work and sort of cleanse their ego. Completely unacceptable. But also because of the manner in which NRA has broken this country. It's important that a genuine nationalist political party, driven by the visionary values around which Uganda People's Congress is nurtured and founded, is present to ensure that a post-Museveni Uganda reignites this country and reorganizes our politics and returns it back to politics not only for constitutionalism, but politics of issues and ideology. And the political party with the relevant ideology that is able to mainstream us and take us post-Museveni beyond national healing and national reconciliation is Uganda People's Congress. So this is not a negotiable situation. It's not a luxury. It's a compulsory must that we get this party right. And I hope and pray that the pending matter in the hands of Justice Joyce Kavuma, one matter of contempt of court, which is pending next week, I hope, and the substantive matter of the declaration of who is the president of Uganda Post Congress and the permanent injunction, which has been so unacceptably delayed, are resolved. And I think it's in the interest of the judiciary to wash their hands
of this,
that biblical stuff, because whatever happens, history will judge people very terribly, whoever's been responsible for the mess inside the party. Let it be a matter for a few individuals in the party, not for organizations, including the judiciary, where we've got leaders who swear oath via the Bible, and in this case sometimes the Quran. And I say this very, very seriously.
I see that, and just earlier on you highlighted that Jimmy, Akena and team have enjoyed a special relationship with the state.
They continue to do so because Jimmy was even lucky enough recently, you said it openly, you were lucky enough to go ahead and have tea with Mr. Museveni to present his complaints. When Mr. Museveni officially tells you that, well, to meet him, people take ages, and to meet him sometimes you've got to pay a few millions. So Jimmy must be very privileged.
To walk in and get a meeting.
Yes.
But by the very virtue that, they were not allowed to get where, is the relationship fracturing? Does the UPC as a stand no longer serve the interests of...
No, UPC is not UPC. UPC is not a party to this mess. This is an individual. I've always said UPC has no
Jimmy,
relationship
Akena and his
Jimmy,
team.
Akena and Betty and whoever else are involved. Those are their deals with Museveni, and that's a deal in Jesus' name. That's a deal that does not have anything to do with Uganda Post Congress. I officially represent the Uganda Post Congress, with or without a formal declaration. And in any case, I'm Milton Obote's permanent spokesperson. I say this authoritatively. It's my job to be able to report to him in heaven on the basis of facts and evidence. So I can tell you, in Jesus' mighty name, I reject and will reject any of the secession. But they are free to continue to do so. But like I repeat, what Mr. Museveni on this occasion did not... Mr. Museveni's sin is not to have interfered with the process. Mr. Museveni is actually absolutely right to say that, well, it's a legal matter. It's generally legal and a constitutional matter within Uganda Post Congress. The Electoral Commission could not nominate Jimmy because Jimmy is not president of the party. And in any case, the substantive matter, actually on the basis of the Court of Appeal ruling only, Jimmy is not president. The person who is not determined is myself and Walubiri, and that's a matter which is pending. And you could say awaiting Justice Muleagonja, rather Justice Kavuma.
Yeah, sure.
Then the Senap participated in the process. He too could not qualify because I said it was a definitive ruling from the other side. But people continue to play politics with it. It's purely that. Now, Walubiri, who's the nearest legitimate leader of the party, in the absence of my challenge, did not pick nomination forms. I picked nomination forms. I did not return them because I can only return nomination forms as president of Uganda Post Congress.
Party.
And I don't want to break the constitution. And it's my job to continuously teach good manners and teach constitutionalism. And that's something that we will do. And as I said, until I report to the founding parents of this republic in heaven.
So, Mr. Ochieno, the Gen Zs, we tend to use a word called a win is a win.
A win and a win. The Gen Zs.
A win is a win.
You guys, this party is your future.
This looks like a win for you and your team. Because this is probably the only time when they have used the forces of coercion to restrict Jimmy Akena. Do you see them continuing and putting him into order?
I don't know whether this is a win for us to celebrate as UPC. I think has been, as I said at the beginning, a massive disservice to the Gen Zs of this country, because today we would be debating real issues of elections. Imagine a UPC candidate called Joseph Ochieno in the fields with the candidate Museveni, exposing his gains of mess, 40 years of disaster, and all other candidates whose names I don't want to refer, whose agenda I genuinely have no clue. Imagine the disservice that has been done to this country, to citizens of this country. So it's not a win at all. It's just a relief that it has not been an entrenchment of Jim Akena. But I hope whatever happens, that these things resolve very quickly. But the Gen Zs must mobilize and organize, and whatever happens in this election, make sure that they don't allow themselves to be broken. but they should prepare themselves for an Ochieno presidency, and they should come because Uganda People's Congress is a party of the youth, party of women, part of workers, and part of peasants. And in every stage, when you talk about youth, you talk about what we provide for the young people of this country. Talk about women, what we provide for them, for women. Part of the workers in terms of industrial relations and jobs and things like that. And part of the peasants, what we provide. Historical on record. Again, I take you back. At City Square, I managed to meet two fantastic young, beautiful students, sharply young ladies from Makerere University Business Schools. These young ladies had no clue that under UPC administration, they had free universal education, and that after that, the jobs were guaranteed for them. But of course, some of the people normally say, oh, Ochieno say that because they did so in the past, they cannot do so today because of the size of the population. No, Gen Zs who have studied economics know that if the population has grown by fourfolds, and Mr. Museveni boasts that the economy has grown 50-folds. It's common sense in mathematics. It's actually easier for us today to be able to provide universal, free, quality education today more and easier than we did in the past.
I get you, and thank you so much. Maybe as we end, this is as we end, I'm sure you had a slogan for your campaign, right? Is that one thing you wanted to, President Museveni is saying we want to make this quantitative leap into, what are they saying, a $500 billion economy? What was going to be our slogan as we close this podcast?
I hadn't narrowed it down, but there are many. For me, as I said, UPC is the future. But as I said, better, this country is possible. All we need to do is to believe in better. That Uganda is possible, we need to believe in better. And as I said, on the basis of what we did, you just don't really make it as a slogan, but you build into some of the things that we will be able to promise.
Had you put up your policy agenda into a manifesto document?
We had drafts, yes.
Oh,
and in any case, what
should look into it.
And one of the things I've also told people is that in UPC, by the way, even when we're having our internal conversations, things to do with policies and programs and things like those are not our issues. Because one is instinctive. Two, doing these things is not our problem. In an overnight situation, we would go. And in any case, when we go around the country, if you walk with anybody, in fact, I've told you guys, find any average young person who is UPC. Meet them in Kasese, meet them in Barara, meet them in Bale, meet them in Arua. If they're young UPCs, take them to particular situations and particular environment. Put 100 others. The UPC chap, boy or girl, will emerge with the sense of leadership, a sense of ideas, and will always be able to be among those people who will present amongst the best programs for whatever it is, including possibly in managing disputes. So, no, we are instinctively the future of this country, and we are instinctively Congress. And of course, yes, our job is to build for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph Ochieno, for giving us this interview. As a policy digest, we have an interest in how society shapes up, and like we said, political parties, and more specifically in this case, the oldest political party and how it is shaping up is of interest to us. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation on how we got to this position that the oldest political party in Uganda has no presidential candidate in the 2026 election. Thank you for listening to the Policy Digest podcast, the Center for Policy Analysis podcast that is profiling African ideas and people that are shaping the future of their communities. Subscribe to all our platforms on YouTube and Podbean.